There comes a time when silence is no longer an option, when the weight of what we see and what we endure presses too heavily on the soul to be ignored. We live in a world that often tests us, that bends us to the edge, that asks us again and again what we are made of. And in those moments, when fear whispers and doubt creeps in, we must remember that resolve is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to stand firm in spite of it. Strength has been misunderstood. It is not measured by how much power one can wield, nor how loud one can shout. True strength is quiet, unwavering, and born from compassion. It is the courage to defend the vulnerable, to lift those who have fallen, to give when there is nothing to gain. It is the strength to protect, not to dominate. But life is not without its trials. Loss finds us all. Pain marks us in ways that cannot be hidden. These struggles are not punishments, they are passages. They carve into us the space where resilience can grow, where character is forged. What defines us is not that we stumble, but that we rise again and again, even when the world believes we cannot. With that rising comes responsibility. Each of us carries a duty, not only to ourselves, but to each other. To act when action is needed, to speak when silence becomes complicity, to leave behind more than we take, and to ensure that the future we hand to those who follow is brighter than the one we inherited. And yet, even in the darkest hours, hope endures. It may flicker, it may weaken, but it never dies. It lives in the smallest acts of kindness, in the courage of ordinary people, in the refusal to give in to despair. That hope is not just a gift, it is a call to act, to keep the flame alive, to share it with those who have lost sight of it. Because at the heart of everything there is the human spirit. It is unbreakable, it is enduring. Every story we live, every choice we make sends ripples outward, shaping a future we may never see. We are each more powerful than we realize, not because of what we take, but because of what we give. So let this be a message carried far and wide. Stand firm in your resolve. Hold fast to compassion. Rise from your struggles. Bear your responsibility with courage. Guard the flame of hope and trust in the enduring spirit within us all. The world is watching, and the world is waiting. Resolve is not something we are born with fully formed. It is shaped in us, tested in the quiet hours when no one is watching, and proven in the moments when everything seems stacked against us. Resolve is the still voice that tells us to take one more step when the road ahead looks impossible. It is the fire that keeps burning even when the wind howls and the night is cold. There will be times when fear will come, times when doubt will lean close and whisper that we are not strong enough, not clever enough, not worthy enough. Resolve is the choice to answer back, to say, I will not stop. It is not about pretending fear does not exist. It is about moving forward despite its presence. The truth is, every man and woman who has achieved something worth remembering has known fear. What made the difference was their refusal to be mastered by it. Life will place obstacles before us that seem immovable, but resolve is the steady hand that chips away day after day until the stone begins to crack. It does not shout for recognition. It does not seek applause. It works in silence, in patience, in endurance. And though the victories may be small, they gather, inch by inch, step by step. Resolve carries us farther than talent, farther than luck, farther than the easy paths ever could. Resolve is not about strength of body. It is strength of spirit. Muscles tire, opportunities pass, but a will that refuses to surrender cannot be broken. In the end, it is not the battles we win that define us, but the battles we refuse to abandon. That is the value of resolve. It gives us the power to endure, to rise, and to stand unshaken when the world tells us to fall. Compassion is often mistaken for weakness, but it is, in truth, one of the greatest strengths a human being can possess. It is the quiet force that reaches beyond pride, beyond fear, beyond the instinct to protect only oneself. It does not come from a place of superiority, but from understanding. To look at another person, whether friend or stranger, and see their pain as if it were your own, that is the heart of compassion. It takes courage to be compassionate in a world that often rewards coldness and indifference. To extend a hand when it is easier to turn away. To forgive when anger feels justified. To give when there is nothing to gain. These are acts of true power. They are not loud, they do not seek recognition, yet they leave marks that endure far longer than cruelty ever will. Compassion is the shield that protects the vulnerable, the light that cuts through isolation, the bridge that closes the distance between people who believe they have nothing in common. It has the power to disarm hostility, to remind us of our shared humanity, to strip away the illusions that divide us. Where violence ends in silence, compassion creates connection. And when compassion is paired with resolve, it becomes unstoppable. To stand firm is one thing, but to stand firm for the sake of others, that is where meaning is found. Compassion asks us not only to survive, but to ensure others survive beside us. It calls us to use whatever strength we have, not to dominate, but to protect. In the end, compassion is not weakness. It is the quiet, steady force that changes the course of lives, sometimes entire generations. The strongest among us are not those who have conquered the most, but those who have chosen, time and again, to care when it would have been easier not to. The struggle is not an enemy, though it often arrives wearing the face of one. It comes uninvited, breaking into our lives with loss, with failure, with hardship that bends us low and tests what we believe about ourselves. No one is spared from it. Struggle is the common thread that binds every human story, no matter how different our paths may seem. It strips away illusion. It reveals who we truly are when comfort is gone, when the easy roads are blocked, when all that remains is the question, will we continue? Struggle does not care for titles, wealth, or reputation. It humbles the proud, it challenges the strong, and it demands an answer from the quiet and unseen. And yet, in its harshness, struggle carries a hidden gift. It is the fire in which resilience is forged. It shapes us, even as it wounds us. The scars it leaves are not marks of weakness, but evidence that we have endured. Every trial survived becomes a stone beneath our feet, raising us higher than we stood before. We are not defined by how often we fall, but by how fiercely we rise. To stumble is human. To rise again and again when the weight feels unbearable, that is strength. Struggle asks for patience, for endurance, for courage that is often quieter than the world notices. But in the silence of those battles, we are remade. No life escapes hardship, but no life is doomed by it either. What matters is not that we suffer, but what we choose to do with the suffering. We can let it harden us into bitterness, or we can let it carve out the space where compassion, resolve, and hope can live. Struggle will always be real, but so will our power to overcome it. Responsibility is not a burden meant to weigh us down. It is the proof that our lives matter, that what we choose and what we do leaves a mark on the world beyond ourselves. Each of us carries it, whether we acknowledge it or not. It begins in small moments. The choice to speak truth when silence would be easier. The choice to act when standing aside would keep us safe. Responsibility does not always roar. Often it whispers, asking us to remember that others depend on us, even when we do not see their faces. To accept responsibility is to recognize that our actions ripple outward. A word spoken in kindness can steady a broken spirit. A choice made in courage can inspire someone we may never meet. But the opposite is also true. Our negligence, our indifference, can harm more deeply than we imagine. Responsibility is the awareness that our lives are not lived in isolation. They are threads in a greater fabric. And when one thread is pulled, the whole is moved. It is tempting to believe responsibility belongs only to leaders, to the powerful, to those whose names are known. But that is a lie. Responsibility belongs to us all. It belongs to the parent who protects, to the friend who listens, to the stranger who steps forward when no one else will. Greatness is not measured in titles. It is measured in how willingly we bear the weight of duty, no matter how unseen it may be. And responsibility is not always grand. It is daily. It is found in choosing honesty when deceit would serve us better, in standing for justice, even when the cost is personal, in ensuring the world we leave is more just, more compassionate than the one we entered. Responsibility asks us to rise above comfort, above convenience, and above fear. When we embrace it, responsibility does not diminish us. It defines us. It becomes the compass by which we navigate, the anchor that keeps us steady, the legacy we leave behind. To carry it is not to be chained, but to be trusted with the chance to make a difference. And in the end, there is no greater honor than that. Hope is the thread that refuses to break, even when everything else around us seems to fall apart. It does not always arrive as a shout of triumph or a blazing light. Sometimes it is as small as a whisper in the dark, a single breath that says, "Not yet. I will not give up." No matter how deep the shadows grow, hope endures. Quiet but unyielding. It lives in the smallest of places. A smile offered to a stranger. A hand extended to someone who has nothing left. The simple act of choosing to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. Hope is not naive. It does not deny the presence of suffering or the weight of struggle. It looks straight into the darkness and refuses to let the darkness have the final word. Across every border, in every culture, in every language, hope is the one force we all share. It is the universal bond between people who may never meet, yet dream of a future free from fear, free from despair. Hope reminds us that no matter how different our lives may seem, we are united in the desire to see light after night, to see renewal after loss, to see peace after conflict. And it is contagious. One person's courage to believe can ignite belief in others. A single act of kindness, a single refusal to surrender, can spread further than we ever imagined. Hope grows not when it is hoarded, but when it is shared. It is true that the world can be cruel, and there will always be moments that test us, moments that feel like the end. But hope teaches us that endings are often beginnings in disguise, that even in the ashes something new can rise. To lose hope is to surrender to silence. To keep hope alive, even in the smallest ember, is to declare that tomorrow is still worth fighting for. The human spirit is the one force that cannot be conquered. It can be wounded, it can be tested, it can be pressed down under the weight of hardship, but it does not break. Again and again, history has shown us that even in the face of devastation, people rise. When all else has been stripped away, when the world has taken what it can, the spirit remains. The quiet, unyielding core that whispers, "I am still here." It is in the survivor who rebuilds from ruins, in the parent who sacrifices so a child can dream, in the stranger who steps forward when courage is needed most. The human spirit does not belong only to the few who are remembered in books or carved in stone. It belongs to us all. Every choice we make, every act of endurance, carries forward the proof that we are stronger than what seeks to destroy us. What gives The human spirit is power, is not perfection, but persistence. We falter, we fail, we grieve, yet time after time we find within ourselves the strength to rise again. That rising is not always dramatic, not always seen, but it matters. It matters because each rise, no matter how small, is an act of defiance against despair. The human spirit is a fire passed from one life to another. Our stories, our struggles, our victories ripple outward in ways we may never witness. Long after we are gone, the courage we show today can shape the courage of tomorrow. And so the spirit endures, not because it never suffers, but because it never surrenders. In the end, it is this spirit that defines us more than our failures, more than our triumphs. It is the unshakable truth that no matter what shadows fall, within us lies a light that cannot be extinguished. That is what it means to endure, and that is what it means to be human. So let this be remembered. Resolve gives us the strength to endure. Compassion gives us the strength to care. Struggle gives us the strength to rise. Responsibility gives us the strength to act. Hope gives us the strength to believe, and the human spirit gives us the strength to endure beyond measure. These are not distant ideals. They are within each of us, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be lived. The world is not healed by grand gestures alone. It is healed by countless small choices. Ordinary people refusing to surrender to fear, refusing to give in to hatred, refusing to let the flame of hope die. Each of us holds that flame. Each of us decides whether to guard it or let it go dark. So I say to all who can hear these words, stand firm, choose compassion, rise from your struggles, carry your responsibility with courage, protect hope, and trust in the spirit that endures within us all. For if we do this, not as nations, not as strangers, but as one humanity, then no darkness will be too deep and no night too long to keep us from the dawn that is coming.